The bell was already swinging when I got my hand on the rope, my knuckles split from the cold, and through the fog at the treeline he was standing right where he always stood on a full moon night, 11 feet of antlered shadow, counting heads the way he'd counted them for 41 years. I didn't ring the bell for him. Not anymore. I rang it because Garrick Thesson was on the wall behind me telling 30 armed men they were about to make their names. "Tonight we end the Hollow Walker," he said, and the torchlight caught his teeth. "Tonight Hallows Reach stops paying tribute to a ghost story." Nobody asked who'd actually been collecting that tribute. I had a guess. I kept it to myself, same as I'd kept the antlered shape at the treeline to myself for 4 decades, a secret hiding in plain sight, in full view of the whole settlement, because nobody wanted to look hard enough to see it. "You're stripping the wall to do it," I said. "The wall's fine. The wall has you." Thesson smiled like that settled it, and looked past me at the 30 men waiting on him like he was already counting the coin he'd be owed for killing the thing he'd spent 9 years getting paid to keep appeased. Besides, whatever's out there, it's never once come past the meadow in your whole tenure up here. Maybe it's not as hungry as the stories say. He said it light, like a joke for the crowd, but his eyes found mine when he said it, and there was a warning underneath the warning: "Keep your mouth shut about what you've actually seen, old man, or I'll find a younger man for that tower." "Ring your bell," he said again, and turned to lead them out the gate. What I did was watch a creature the settlement called a monster choose, every single year, not to be one. It started the August I turned 17, the night the fog rolled in thick enough to eat torchlight and something stepped out of the smoke line that should have killed every soul behind that palisade and didn't. It just stood in the meadow until the moon went down. I was the only one still on the wall by then, everyone else had run for the cellar, and I remember thinking it was watching the gate the way a man watches a door he's deciding whether to walk through. It never walked through. Not that year. Not any year since. 11 years in, a dart took it through the haunch, some fool trader's guard, panicking at shadows, and it dragged itself to the meadow anyway, the way it always came, blood black in the moonlight, and folded down onto its front legs like something that had run out of road. I climbed the wall before I'd decided to. I don't know why. I just knew nobody else would, and an animal in that much pain that still chose to lie down in front of us instead of tearing the gate apart had earned a look from somebody. I pulled the dart. It let me. Its eye, slit-pupiled, gold, the size of my fist, never left my hands the whole time, and when I was done it touched its antlers to my shoulder, light as a held breath, before it limped back into the fog. I started calling it Ash that night, for the way the moonlight came off its rack like cinders cooling. I never told anyone the name. Some things you don't hand to a crowd that's already decided what to be afraid of. 6 years after that, a wolf pack came down off the high country during a lean winter and started working our southern paddock fence one rail at a time. I found the first dead ewe at dawn and figured we'd lose the whole flock before the men could be roused. We didn't. Whatever got to those wolves before they finished the job left tracks the size of dinner plates pressed into the frost, leading back toward the smoke line, and not one more sheep went missing that winter. Nobody connected it to the walker. Why would they? The walker was a full moon thing, a fog thing, not something that came down for sheep on an ordinary Tuesday. I connected it. I just didn't say so. After that, the truce just kept being a truce. I left the side gate unbarred on full moon nights, never opened, just unbarred, and Ash never tested it, not once in 30 years, which told me everything the rest of Hallows Reach refused to learn. It wasn't waiting for a weakness. It was checking that we were still there. Thesson's hunting party rode out into the fog 40 minutes after he gave his speech, torches bobbing toward the smoke line, every able body on the wall stripped down to a handful of boys too young to carry a blade. I stayed on the bell tower because that was my post, and because something about an empty wall on a hunting night had been sitting wrong in my gut since Thesson first opened his mouth about glory. It went wrong on the east side, where nobody was looking, because that was always going to be the side nobody was looking. I caught the movement by accident, a glint off metal in the brush past the grain stores, low and fast and not animal-shaped at all. Then a second glint. Then 6 raiders, working the dark while every armed man in the settlement chased fog half a mile the wrong direction, and Thesson's empty ghost story had just become the only thing standing between Hallow's Reach and a slaughter nobody would get to debate at a council meeting afterward. I rang the bell. Not the slow toll for fog watch. The fast one. The one we hadn't used since before I was born, the one that means the wall is breached and God help whoever's behind it. The smoke line answered before the men did. Ash came out of the fog at a dead run, low and silent until he wasn't, and the sound he made going over that east wall isn't one I'll try to put into words for you, only that it stopped being quiet, all at once, the way a held breath stops being held. I heard one raider scream and then I didn't hear him at all. I heard steel ring off antler and snap. A second man tried to run for the brush and didn't get 10 strides before something the size of a draft horse cut the angle on him and put him down without breaking stride. I heard men who'd come expecting farmers find out, in the space of about 9 seconds, exactly what kind of mistake they'd made. The ones who could still run did, scattering back into the dark in 2s and 3s, and Ash let the last 3 go rather than chase them past the fence line, stopped himself short of the treeline like there was a rule about it, like the meadow was the edge of what he was willing to be. By the time the boys got torches up on the east wall, it was already over. 2 raiders down and not moving, the rest scattered back into the dark faster than they'd come, and Ash standing in the gap they'd been cutting through our fence, antlers dripping, breathing hard, looking up at me on the tower like he was making sure I'd seen it, like the whole point had been that I see it. Easy, I called down, the same word I'd been saying to him for 30 years. Easy. Good. Home now. He came to the base of the bell tower and lay down in the mud, chin on his forelegs, and stayed there. Thesson's hunting party straggled back at first light, fog-soaked, empty-handed, furious, and stopped cold at the sight of an 11-foot apex predator sleeping at the foot of the bell tower like a hound that had earned its rest. For a long moment nobody said anything at all. Then it was Mary Katie, who ran the grain stores, who broke the silence in front of everyone, that she'd paid Thesson tribute coin every full moon for 9 years to keep the walker appeased, that half the families on the East Row had been paying the same, and that Thesson had told her himself, drunk, 2 winters back, that the thing had never once come past the meadow and never would. He'd known. He'd been charging the whole settlement to negotiate with a danger that didn't exist, and he'd just spent their actual defenders chasing it through the dark on the one night a real threat came calling. Thesson tried to call her a liar. Nobody backed him. By the time 3 more voices had said the same thing about the same coin, he wasn't trying anymore, just standing there with his mouth working and nothing coming out, the way a man looks when the story he's told for 9 years finally runs out of road in front of the people who paid for it. Nobody in Hallow's Reach has called Thesson warden since. He left before the council finished talking, and nobody much minded which direction. Ash still comes out of the smoke line on full moon nights. He still stands in the meadow a while before he comes to the wall. But the gate's open now, properly open, and the children come down to see him, and he lets them, antlers lowered, patient as old stone, though I notice he still puts himself between them and the treeline every time, out of habit or out of choice. I've stopped trying to tell those apart. 41 years I rang that bell warning the settlement about him. I think I finally understand what it was actually for.